Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited for the beginning of this conference, and I really look forward to learning a lot over the next 2 days, or 3 days, rather. So my talk today is titled, Making Women Count, Moving from 20% to 50% for Civic Renewal. And this is a Prezi presentation, so those who get car sick, just close your eyes when I'm advancing the slides, and you'll be fine. So I'm going to start by talking very, very quickly about our democracy today. There are two sides of this, and Peter really spoke about this eloquently. But the one side is that it's an exciting time. There's a lot of exciting local democracy going on, citizens participating, towns like Hampton, Virginia, being really able to incorporate youth voice in a really meaningful and substantive way. The other side of that is that when people think about national politics, particularly about the Congress, people almost universally think about terrible things like dysfunctional, disappointing, selfish, lazy, corrupt, inept, bad, incompetent, sucks. Pretty bad. And when we actually look at the numbers in terms of the percentage of laws that are enacted or resolutions that have been passed, we've taken a nosedive in the 112th Congress, and it's actually worse this term, from what I understand. So it's a mixed bag. And what I'm here to say today, actually, is that young people are discouraged because of what they get to see at the national level. What people get to see, for the most part, is what national media reports, how Congress is really stuck, not making really a lot of progress, how policymakers are not able to compromise or reconcile. So for young people, there's really no good model of democracy that's functioning. And that's been that way for the last decade or so, if you think of that. So young people are really feeling like the government is really killing their future, killing their dream. They're not really feeling like they're inspired by what's going on. As a result of that, young people really don't believe in how effective the politics can be. So the IOP at Harvard found recently that when asked whether political involvement has any tangible results, only a quarter of young people said yes. The other quarter said absolutely not. And the other about half said not sure. So to say the least, people are really skeptical about what they can do through political engagement. Young people also don't see getting involved in politics or changing the structure of the society as a priority when they're thinking about their future. This is from Harry's survey, which found that really when we're talking about things like working for social change or developing leadership skills, that's really rated low on the scale of what's important to you. Things that are sort of uninspiring, like just having a job or security of the job, are a lot more important. They're higher up on the graph. So what's going on? Promoting gender equality in elected offices is part of the solution to this problem. And I'll tell you why. But before we go into that, let's talk about what gender inequality. Right? So Debbie already made a really great case for this. But when we think about our famous female politician, looking really happy there, we question whether there is inequality. But again, when we look at normative statistics about civic engagement, women are more engaged. And when we look at this graph from census data, you can see that women, who's represented in the red graph here, are ahead of young men in almost everything, with an exception of talking about politics with family and friends. But really almost everything. Women also lead men in voter turnout, especially for young women. The difference has always been there for the last so many cycles, but especially in the last 3 or 4 cycles, the difference has been big. It's now about 7 percentage points. It's a big difference there. And young women are even ahead of men in academics. Women received 57% of 4-year degrees granted in 2010. That's almost 60%. And 30% of women complete a 4-year degree by the age of 25, compared with just 22% among men. So they're really ahead in many ways. But gender gaps do exist in a more subtle way, but in a really serious and consequential way. In a couple areas. One is an interest in politics and political career, and the other one is about what the girls see, what they hear from the people that are close to them and respect, and what they develop as confidence in themselves as they grow up. First, in the interest in political career area, you see that when you look at college young people, and so those are the people that tend to go into the political pipeline, they are even different in terms of their interest in keeping up with political affairs or how they see changing the political structure in the society as a priority in their life. When you zoom into the recent years, you can see that the women's interest in keeping up with political affairs have actually gone down quite a bit, while men, which is in the blue line here, has mostly kept up. Another research also shows that men tend to spend their sort of free time or entertainment time seeking some political news or information, like watching the Colbert Show or accessing political news over the internet and visiting news websites or blogs that are related to politics compared to women. And when you ask young men and women, again, this is from college survey, what they would be interested in doing given the same pay and opportunity, women are least likely to choose member of Congress as their career choice. That's their last choice, as opposed to men who chose being a lawyer as the last choice. There's probably a good reason for that. But it's not just at the national level. When they were even given the choice about being a mayor compared to teacher or business owner or salesperson, it's kind of shocking to me that only 8% of women chose mayor and 6% chose salesperson. So that's actually sort of surprising in that, you think mayor is a respected position and it's local, but yet so few women choose that career. All in all, only about 10% of women seriously consider choosing a political career, as opposed to about 20% of women. And when you think about women that's never thought about it, that's about 2/3, and only about 1/3 really ever thinks about choosing a political career. That's astonishing. There's also a lot of numbers and facts about the roles and expectations and confidence. Girls are just not encouraged to run for any kind of political office by anybody in life compared to men. About 30% of women has ever been encouraged to run, as opposed to 40%. And the difference in encouragement comes from everyone in life, not just parents, but also from grandparents, teachers, coaches, religious leaders, grandparents, and even friends. And although women now have access to the entry point of many industries and places we used to not have any access to, like law, medicine, academia, there are just few women at the top still. Here's an example. When we look at the U.S. workforce as a whole, 47% are women, but when you go all the way at the top at the Fortune 500 company CEOs, that's just 4.2% who are women. There's a big difference there. Also, as Debbie mentioned, female leaders in general are absent from media. It's the latest data from Dina Davis Institute here. So in the family films, just 3.4% sort of are in the corporate suite. So they're the CEOs, presidents of the company. 4.5% are in the high-level political office. And none of the chief of justices or DAs are women. The numbers are a little bit better for the primetime programs, which children don't tend to really watch, but it's still pretty bad. Finally, women get to develop less confidence over their development in leadership skills, as well as how popular they feel, which is an important element of being elected in an office. A couple numbers here once again. So when they start college, women already feel less confident about their leadership skill. 20% of women, as opposed to 27.6% of men, feel that they have strong leadership skills. By the time they graduate, the gap actually expands. So by the time their senior year comes around, a lot more men feel like they're really good at leadership. Almost a third of them think that they're in the top 10%, which is a little bit overconfidence, perhaps. But only 19% or so of women still feel that way by the time they graduate. They actually show a slight decline. So by the time they graduate, the difference is up to now about 13, 14 percentage points, which is huge. There's more. Women's levels of confidence in their popularity is actually hit an all-time low since 1966. So if you look at that, women are doing better and better and better up till about 1980s, whatever was happening then. But it's actually sort of hit a decline since that time, and you can sort of see a pretty steep decline in the most recent years. It may have to do with the economy, it may have to do with the historical time that it is. I don't know the reason for that. But what I can see is that it's an all-time low in over 40 years. That's not all. Women of color and women who are poor have even fewer opportunities. You can see here, women of color and white women are about twice as different in some ways. Most indicators of civic engagement, there's big difference, and it's sort of universal across indicators. No matter what they say, what they do, women of color are lower in engagement. It's also true to socioeconomic class. When we surveyed about over 4,000 young people, we were able to look at the relationship between social class and civic engagement, particularly in political engagement. Once again, you see a big disparity, about twice as much again, between women who are poorest and women who are wealthiest. Another one. Wealthiest young women are about 5 times as likely to feel supported, to have discussions that are controversial, sometimes where they disagree, and from their family, compared to women who come from the lowest socioeconomic class. What do we know about women then? Research shows that they tend to lead from behind, or co-lead, or share credits from others who do things. And they lead because they feel passionate about something that's happening in their community. They want to make a difference, rather than just to lead or to play the game. Women take more time and encouragement before they run. Those are things that's been found out. And another thing that's been really clear is that the stereotypes about women and their position in politics persist. Here's a really new study that's in press now. So when people were asked, how do you think people think of female politicians compared to male politicians or women in general, women leaders? What they found that the female politicians in general are viewed as unattractive, uptight, yet incompetent. It's pretty terrible. So they're seen as having less integrity and empathy, less positive feminine traits like creative and caring, less attractive, yet more positive in terms of male characteristics such as competitiveness. This is sort of people's rating, not true, but rating. And more negative female leadership, such as uptight and micromanaging. And when compared to male politicians, they were seen as having less leadership qualities and competence. In the end, women are viewed as having a lot of good qualities like collaborativeness and cooperativeness, but bad politicians at the end of the day. Let's review very quickly. So, low expectations for girls to lead is pervasive. It's from everywhere, every time, and from everyone. College education is definitely not a cure-all. The graphs show that, if anything, women's confidence goes down, not up. Disparities among women themselves are severe, and it's persistent. Public holds on to one view of leadership, and public no longer expects politicians to collaborate, compromise, or reconcile. Women are good collaborators, but bad politicians. So, what can we do? All of us, and by that, I mean women and men. I just want to be clear about that. We need to diversify what young girls see, hear, learn about women in leadership and politics. Boost access to pipelines like Debbie and her colleagues are doing, and other programs over the country. Reconstruct perception of female politicians. Right now, we really don't have a perception of female politicians, right? Sounds like we think they're incompetent, they're not attractive, but not like male politicians. So we need to really make a good image that's representative, realistic, and something about competent, because they've made really big differences. and challenge public expectations for politicians. They can do better, they can govern better, and women are really needed in that picture. And shift from this gender inequality issue from women's problem to a democracy's problem. The question is really how, and I really look forward to learning about that for the next day or two. But I don't think it's a question about whether we should do it or not. I think if we don't do it, we're continuing to risk the health of democracy. And without having women represent, having women having meaningful and substantive and influential voices, we're not going to achieve this healthy democracy. So I really ask you to take this issue seriously. Thank you.